Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for February 7th, 2027. Well, let's take a quick peek at what happened overnight. We had Asian markets last night, ended up closing mixed, but mostly higher. Shanghai was up another 1.44%, while Hong Kong was down. South Korea was slightly higher. The Nikkei was slightly lower, and Australia was slightly higher. So kind of an interesting mix of reports in there on Asian markets. If we take a look at European markets, however, they're down across the board, but not really strongly down, kind of moderately down across the board this morning. Concerns and worries, that uncertainty about what the ECB is going to do when it comes to rate cuts. And then if we look at U.S. futures this morning, well, they have been lower, but they're trying to push up at the moment. They're probably going to bounce around here quite a little bit this morning because we've got a lot of earnings data coming in. So really anything is most likely possible this morning. Let's take a look at what's happening in oil. We've got oil slightly higher here this morning, trying to push up. And again, the estimates for our petroleum status number, our output growth estimates are kind of lower. So that's kind of helping, at least at the moment, to push oil prices just slightly higher. Natural gas is just slightly down. And then if we take a look at our bonds this morning, our bonds are pretty much unchanged, not moving around too much this morning, with bond yields on the 2-year at 4.41 and the 10-year bonds at 4.12. So a little bit of still that pressure, a little bit of concern in there on those bonds. So what does all this mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. How about we shake off all of our bias, and let's take a look at these charts and see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Well, first off, if we take a look at the diamonds here, there's nothing in here that's bearish on this chart whatsoever. Despite that ugly bearish candle right in there, we still are not seeing any interest in the bears to really pick up and do much of anything. Yesterday we saw this pop and move to the upside, but it's interesting. If you look at the intraday chart here, the majority of the day after that pop up, all we did was go sideways, just chopping sideways. It seems like we might be struggling with a bit of momentum here in the market as we try to figure out what all of this means, all these data points and earnings coming our way and the mix of data that we're seeing. So just kind of chopping along here sideways. Now that could be a very bullish situation where we're just holding in here on that trend. If we can find that energy to pop out, that would be very, very bullish. And remember, if we can find that bullish energy, just keeping in mind, if we can pop through some of these resistance areas, well, new record high would be right there for the taking if the bulls have the energy. And if we push on through that little wick, well, blue sky above in the diamonds. If the bears, however, were to find inspiration, well, we can see we've got a little bit of a price support here in the chart. These 3 candles right across here, a little bit of price support. So if they were to push this down and push down through this area, that's where a little bit of worry might come in the market. And then we'd be looking maybe for a test of that wick low or that tail low. And then I think probably the next place down would be pushing down to test these big candle lows here in that chart on the diamonds. So keep a close eye on that. But right now there really is no clues to any major selling coming in despite the concerns we have out there in the market. If we take a look at our SPY, SPY also showing lots of strength, staying in here, just a nice little consolidating move. But we do have these patterns in here on these candles that does raise maybe just a little bit of concern or uncertainty in here, where we're getting kind of hanging man pattern, spinning top pattern, that uncertainty here in the market. But as you can see, it won't take much push that we pop this up and we have a new record high close in the SPY. So if those bulls can get going or find that inspiration today, it wouldn't be too hard to see that occurring. And if we can pop through that wick over there, well, then we have blue sky highs above. If the bears, however, find inspiration today, well, you can see we've got kind of a stair-step situation going on here to the downside. If they were to push down below the low of yesterday, then we'll start worrying about this low down here on that candle, and then possibly even pushing on down to take out that big white candle here to the upside. So watch these levels in the chart. Now, keeping in mind, that's still going to keep the SPY in this upside trend. A pullback into here doesn't really hurt anything overall. It might raise a little bit of uncertainty, but it doesn't hurt anything if we come back and retest that trend. If we take a look at our QQQ, very similar situation here. We've tried several times to break through. We popped up here and couldn't quite hold up there. We tried it again, couldn't quite make that happen. And again, we have tried to break through up there, haven't been able to quite do that. But if those bulls can find that inspiration today, well, we could see it really wouldn't take all that much of a push to push us up through and get an all-time high here in the QQQ. And this nice little resting pattern that we're seeing in here, still we have to remember we're within a trend, and so blue sky highs above up there certainly looks like a possibility. Now, if the bears were to come in, and there is that little bit of concern out here where we can't follow through here after such a big move, and we're getting, a hanging man pattern, a little bit more of a hanging man type pattern in the chart. So we're going to need some inspiration maybe to push us on through. If, however, those bears were to find inspiration, these tails aren't exactly parallel, but almost really close in there. So I would suggest we would pretty much have to come down here and pop down through those to really start raising some concern and showing those bears are strengthening. And if that were to be the case, then our next level would be probably down here, and then we would look for this trend here in the chart to pick us up as support. Let's take a look at our IWM. IWM continues to struggle. Here again, we don't have the benefit of big tech giants that just continue to garner tons and tons of attention despite their elevation in prices. But as you can see here, we did rally up yesterday. We'll see whether or not, as we push back up, if we can hold or break through this resistance here in the chart. Notice we've got kind of that double whammy of resistance right here in IWM. So pushing up, watch these levels in the chart. Now, breaking through there, of course, we're probably up here testing that little resistance high. So watch that carefully. If the bears, however, have something to say here, well, that possibility that we could push back down and test the lows right in these recent lows here in the chart. And if those were to break, then I see that possibility that we're coming back down here into that support area. The thing we've got going here in the IWM is a wedging pattern. It's one of those patterns that you could just spend a lot of time in this pattern. So you can see there's that wedge, and that possibility that we could just chop around and wind up in here for a potential move either up or down is still a possibility in the Russell. Let's take a look at our VIX. Now, our VIX showing no fear yesterday, pulling back. This uncertainty that we see in the market, which we saw in the price action yesterday, doesn't appear here in the VIX. We're very, very confident that everything is great, that the market is going to go up when it comes to our fear gauge here. So pushing back down, notice we're breaking back down below that little upside trend that we've had in there. We've tripped through that bottom several times, but then just seemed to bounce right back up. But we'll want to watch this closely. If we find good, strong, bullish information today, then pushing this on down, and there's every reason to believe we could be down here testing these lows in the chart. It'll only be if we pop back up and we start breaking some of these highs in here that we would see some fear really start to creep up in the market. Right now, it's not showing up there at all. If we take a look at our T2122, our T2122 indicator, remember, is the 4-week new high, new low ratio. It's nothing fancy about this. How many stocks are making new highs? How many stocks are making new lows on that 4-week rotational basis? And you can see the day before yesterday, we were down here testing the lows of the market, the bullish reversal zone down here. And then we bounced up yesterday, or mostly up yesterday, and you can see we came back up here and we crossed back through the 50% area. But not so much to be just like, wow, that was an amazing move in the market, because we bounced and then we kind of just chopped sideways for the rest of the day. So watching this carefully in here, what this really means is if the bulls find inspiration today, well, we have about an equal amount to the upside as we do the downside. So it's going to be pretty much data dependent here on how we react in the market. Can we push on through, or will we be breaking back down in here? And your guess is as good as mine on that. We're kind of straddling the fence here at the moment. If we take a look at our T2108, however, now T2108 had a little tiny increase, and this is showing us, this is the percentage of stocks above the 40-day. So we got that impression yesterday that we were extremely bullish, at least in the open of the day. But notice it really didn't change all that much here in T2108. So the good news is we're holding some support here in the chart, but only around 40% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average, and we've created some resistance levels here in the chart that we'll want to be watching pretty carefully. So if those bulls find inspiration, then we'll look for a retest up in here, see if we can break through that area. If the bears find inspiration, start breaking down, we could really start to maybe see some fear pick up if we start breaking on lower here in T2108. If we take a look at our T2107, this was interesting as well. This was absolutely flat until right in the last few minutes of the day, and it turned back up. So we held up okay with that push here at the end of the day. We held this price support, so looking okay here in T2107, holding that price support, still holding in there 53%. So if we can see those bulls continue to push on through, just remember we've got some resistance here in the chart. A failure of this area would be where we would get maybe a little bit of concern here in the market. Let's take a look at our T2101, and here's where our culprit is in T2101. As we pushed up yesterday, we really didn't see any expansion in the breadth to the upside, which honestly is a little bit surprising to me with so many companies coming out from under their corporate buyback restrictions in earnings. But so far we haven't seen that breadth expanding on a result on that result. So what we need to see is in a bullish move, we need to see that breadth increasing. What we don't want to see is this little hooking pattern that's starting to show up here and have that breadth turning lower as we try to push higher in the market. Now, if the bears were to take over here and show some inspiration to do something, and if we saw the breadth increasing on that bearish wave, that would be a little bit of concern. If we start breaking out of some of these areas here and the bears pushing, that's where that little bit of fear might come in. But So far, there's no evidence of that, but we'll want to watch this area closely. Weak breadth on the buy side of the market is a bit of a concern because that will embolden those bears when they decide to push a little harder. Let's take a look at our economic calendar for today. Now, our economic calendar still pretty light on the data this week. But this morning, we're going to get mortgage application numbers here today. We're going to get the international trade in goods numbers. Now, we're still running tremendous deficits, but they're looking for an improvement here on that deficit to $62.2 billion in the hole on that, but that is an improvement of 63.2. So keep an eye on that. But I can tell you, it doesn't seem to matter what happens with this. The market right now just ignores it. Then we've got the petroleum status. Estimates are that we're going to be short on supplies again, and that's why we have those oil prices kind of ticking higher here. So we'll want to watch that number here today. That could certainly have an effect if those energy prices go up. Obviously, that could be pushing on that inflationary number just a little bit. It's been one of the major factors for lowering our inflation. So we don't want to see that happening. And then, of course, the situation over there in the Red Sea, the Middle Eastern conflict, that's all causing that worry, concern going on. And we've certainly seen shipping rates go way up as a result of all of that, which of course is also inflationary. We'll want to be paying attention to that. But after that, we've just got a bunch of Fed speak in here. We've got a couple of bond auctions to be thinking about, and then consumer credit at the end of the day, which nobody's going to pay attention to. We have on Thursday, remember, as we move over into Thursday, we got those jobless claims, and those have been problematic for us here, so we'll want to watch that carefully. And then we've got Barkin speaking, wholesale, preliminary inventory numbers, natural gas, some more Fed speak, some more bond auctions, and a Fed balance sheet at the end of the day. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here today, and it is a busy one, guys. There's no way I can cover all, even close to cover all of these that are reporting here this morning or today, not just this morning, but you'll want to be able to click the link just below the title of the video. That'll take you back to the morning blog where you can grab the full list of notables here for today. I'll run through a couple of these. Some of the more notables here this morning is we're going to hear from Disney here today, and Disney's been rallying heading into that earnings report. This could be really, really important for Disney to see whether or not it's going to be able to hold up and push on through some of these resistance levels in the chart, because rallying like this into the earnings event, if they happen to disappoint, I would look for that to get hit hard if it does end up disappointing. So watch that one carefully today. We're going to hear from Baba. Will be reporting today. Looks like a little pop and drop going on there in the pre-market on that one. We've got Allstate that will be reporting, and boy, I tell you, insurance has been extremely strong. They have been able to just continue to raise rates and raise rates and raise rates based on because of inflation and costs, and they're making out like bandits right now because what are you going to do? Not buy insurance? Let's take a look. We've got CVS, I believe, is already reported this morning, and they are guiding lower for next quarter, but had good earnings report. So we're kind of zigzagging around here in the pre-market on that one. We're going to hear from KGC, gold miner. Looks like that's moving lower here a bit this morning. We've got stocks like Globe Life, again, more insurance in there reporting. PYCR will be reporting today. We're going to hear from SMG today. We're going to hear from Yum Brands today. So we'll want to be paying attention to all of these, and there's a slew of them here today of notables. So make sure you're watching those closely. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, please do me that favor and click that subscribe button. And then also click that bell icon when it pops up, so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor as well, and that would be click that button to leave a brief comment, that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow just about as much as anything else, clicking and engaging with the video. So remember, even an emoji counts. And I know it gets boring and kind of hassled to have to do this every single day, but it does help support the effort of me putting these videos out every single day as well. So thank you so much to everyone who does take the time to do that. If you also want to share this video out on your social media feed, your social media channel, that helps us attract more folks as well. So thank you very much for everyone who does take the time to do that. Let's take a look at some stocks setting up, and please keep in mind, guys, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Make sure you're doing your own due diligence. Be very, very careful here in the market. We have this little bit of uncertainty here, but I don't see any tremendous bearishness really starting to pick up yet. But we do want to recognize the fact that it could start at any time. So that being said, let's take a look at a few of these stocks and make sure that you follow your risk tolerances, your rules for trading. Never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. Well, first off, let's take a look at some stocks that have really been driven down here in the market. Take a look at PayPal. Now, PayPal is on that list here today for a report, so watch that closely. But one of the things I wanted to point out here, we've got so many stocks that are really high flyers, and those high flyers, if they start to see some selling, folks are going to start looking, institutions are going to start looking for stocks coming up off of bottoms where there is some good growth potential. PayPal, I'm not saying this is one of those, but PayPal could be one of those. And notice what we've got going on here, that possible break of this downtrend. So we get that earnings report. If we can break up here and hold, then I would look for that opportunity that we could start moving in some kind of an upside trend here on PayPal. So keep an eye on that. And it just happens to be, if you take a look at Plug Power, pretty much the same thing. We're seeing more and more reports of worries about EV vehicles, the economic or the ecological damage from EV vehicles, and the sustainability of them. And we're seeing a lot more interest in hydrogen starting to perk up here. So watch this carefully. Plug Power, you can see a nice little bullish pattern. I placed an alert, it triggered that alert yesterday. I chose not to buy it just yet because this is such a steep rally. It may rest a little bit more, but I'm thinking there may be an opportunity in here. And again, one of those stocks kind of coming up out of that bottom. If we take a look at let's see, it's X. Oh, now I can't think of the symbol. There it is, FXI. Senior moment there. FXI is a China index ETF, and I have mentioned this before, where we've got this. We have sold this off hard here in China, back in this area. And if you believe, and I'm not saying you should, but if you believe that the China efforts, they're kind of pulling out all stops right now to rescue the market. You know, no short selling allowed over there, and all kinds of, you can only buy, you can't sell. And they're making some major changes and injecting a lot of money into the market, trying to turn this around. So keep an eye on this coming up out of this bottom. This might be something to pay attention to, breaking through that downtrend here. In a strong move, any kind of rest or pullback that holds in there and holds a higher low may set up that next opportunity to the upside. So if they get the job done over there in China, I'd keep an eye on FXI if you have an interest in holding any Chinese issue stocks. Let's take a look at a few other places here in the market now. Not so much of a pullback in here. This thing is a high flyer. IBM, good strong earnings report. Pushed up in here, and if we take a look at that, we're pressing these resistance levels that go all the way back here to 2012 to 2015. And we're resting in this pattern in here. You can see that there's really not much of any selling going on. So I would watch that carefully. If we can hold a support level in here and those buyers were to step up, look for that opportunity. They could pop through that area. And then maybe we're up here looking for those all-time highs here in IBM, which are right up here. That's the all-time high in IBM. So watch that closely. That could be a pretty good move to the upside if that can get going. You might want to be taking a look at some of the pay systems out there. Visa continuing to look very, very strong. Nice little resting consolidation pattern in here. If those buyers can find that inspiration and push up off of this support, every reason to believe we continue to push higher here in Visa. Now, if we take a look at MasterCard, also very, very bullish and strong pattern. It's a little bit overextended in the short term, but you can see we're resting in that consolidating pattern. It is possible that we may have to come all the way back here to find the trend before it continues to move to the upside, but let's watch that closely for that push through to the upside. And although there is an awful lot of concern starting to come up about the health of our banking system, we still see very bullish patterns here in XLF, the financials, holding in here a very bullish pattern. That possibility that could pop on through, see some new highs to the upside. So watch that carefully. It's different on the regionals. KRE actually going the other direction here in the market. There is some real concern here about the commercial real estate issues and the refinancing of that and the losses. And as a matter of fact, the stories out there are quite a few of our regional banks that are functionally insolvent at the moment. So watch that carefully. If we start to catch a little fear coming in on the financials, well, that could be one of those catalysts to move the market lower. So just pay pretty close attention to those. Let's take a look at stock like Shop. Shop still trying to push on through here. It's going to report on 213, still holding in there, trying to get that done and push on up. We'll want to watch that carefully here in the chart. And then today we're also going to hear from CCJ. CCJ uranium has been pretty strong. It's been weakening here just a little bit because we've seen a little strengthening in the dollar with the bond yields widening. But watch this carefully in here. If this reports well and starts pushing up, you might look at some of these other stocks like UEC that's holding into that higher low. And that's not going to report for a while, but it would get some benefit of a good strong move out of CCJ, either direction. It could pop and move higher or finally break on down to come back here to the trend. So keep an eye on some of those stocks. A lot of those uranium plays have been really strong this year and looking very, very good. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks so much for being here and listening today, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. You guys are truly awesome. I will see you right back here bright and early Thursday morning. So watch all of these earnings reports come out. Get ready for probably some choppy volatility in the market as we run through all of this data. Y'all take care. Be safe. We'll see you right back here first thing Thursday morning.